Well, as you know, March marks Women's History Month, and Mayor Adams prides himself on an administration with women at the top. The mayor named women to lead the police and fire departments, as well as his closest advisors, including First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright. And Ms. Wright is joining me this morning. So good to see you, and thank you for being here on Picks on Politics.
Good to see you as well, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So let's first talk about some policies, right? Mayor Adams has announced female-forward initiatives, especially when it comes to health, right? So what are those conversations like behind the scenes, and how do you decide really what to prioritize here?
Well, we look at data and we really try to focus on what are the most urgent issues that are facing New Yorkers and women in particular as it relates to health. And we really want to zero in and fix those disparities. One big example is Black women and their mortality as it relates to childbirth and their children. Black women are 9 times more likely to die in childbirth. It's one of the most dangerous places in the country to give birth if you're a Black woman. So that's an area we're zeroing in on. Even in the first year, we have doulas serving 1,000 families and their children, and we want to expand that work and really bust through those disparities.
Yeah, it is such a big issue, and I'm glad that this is being paid closer attention to, and not only talked about within the Adams administration, but nationwide as well, is starting to really focus in on this topic. I do, while we have you, if you don't mind, I'll get back to some of the women's rights issues in a second. I want to talk about some big issues of the week that are really facing New York City, and one of those being statewide is bail reform. And as you know, the state Senate and Assembly rejected Governor Hochul's proposal to give judges more discretion, and this bail reform is a topic where the mayor and governor do not always see eye to eye. So what did the mayor think of the state's legislative decision, and you as well?
Well, I think everyone can agree that we really need to look at reforms writ large so that our criminal justice system is really serving the needs of those who are accused as well as victims of crime. And we have some work to do. And I think in this legislative session, there's several things that are on the table. There were discovery laws that were passed last year. There are more resources needed for both prosecutors and defense attorneys to really meet the letter of that law. And there are other fixes that need to be made. And I think everyone is really leaning in to make the necessary improvements for the entire system. There's just systemic challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the topic of criminal justice, Ms. Wright, the mayor raised some questions about the timing of these borough-based jails when Rikers is set to close by 2027. But he said the Brooklyn jail won't be ready till 2029. And so what is the timeline for the other boroughs? Are they on track to be open by 2027 when Rikers is slated to close?
Well, we, as the mayor said, we are committed to following the laws that are in place in terms of the closure of Rikers. We have obviously have just come out of a pandemic, and there's a lot of things that we're looking at in terms of timing. That was the information that was released this week, just in terms of where things are. So there's more work to do, but this administration is committed to following the legislation that is in place as to closing Rikers.
That's great. It's good to hear that, because there was obviously that rally outside of City Hall last week by a bunch of elected leaders, including the Speaker, saying it must close. So if you're committed to it, what happens if those borough-based jails are not ready? Where do the inmates go? Or is that plan still in the works?
We are working diligently to continue to achieve the goal, and we are going to absolutely need to do that in partnership with other electeds and key stakeholders. Okay.
And, the last time you were actually here in person, last time you and I spoke, and it was really to tackle the migrant crisis. I know it's a difficult topic. The governor pledged to give money. So has that state aid come in as the mayor continues to try and really get every cent possible for this billion-dollar price tag? And looking ahead as well, are you having to actually face some cuts because of the budget crisis, because of the migrant crisis?
It's a huge challenge. This fiscal year that we're in, it's an additional $1.4 billion that we had not anticipated, we had not budgeted or planned for. It's significant. And next year, we're looking at $2.8 billion, so it's a big number. We've only received $8 million, period, from the federal government. We're still working to access some portion of $800 million that Senator Schumer and Congressman Hakeem Jeffries were able to allocate. But the governor did put some resources in our budget. But it's not enough to meet the demand, and so we have to wait to see how the budget process unfolds. before we can even access any of those dollars.
Yeah, to be continued, I'm sure. So just to circle back, to Women's History Month and the women leaders in this city, can you talk more about what it means for you to be a top leader in this administration?
It's a blessing. I feel very privileged to be of service. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I love this city deeply, and to be able to be in a position to really help advance everyday New Yorkers' lives. One of the things I'm very proud of this administration, we were able to get the earned income tax credit increase for the first time in 20 years. That's going to touch 800,000 New Yorkers right now with more resources in their pockets. That is very needed and essential. So to be able to do things like that and to be able to advance childcare opportunities for working mothers and families, those things just make me feel very grateful to be a part of this administration.
Yeah, and what do you think is the impact, really, of seeing so many women lead departments and really be in the room where it happens, right, in the decision-making process?
I think, our lived experiences, are the diversity of thought that interjects in the conversation around policy or programs. It's really important. I mean, women, we make up at least half of the population. And certainly we're at the table and really leaning in to make the important decisions that impact our city. I think it's critically important for representation.
All right, first Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright, do you want to one day drop the first deputy?
I am very grateful, as I said, to be of service in this great administration. And, I just can't wait to continue to deliver for New Yorkers.
All right. Very good. Good to see you here on Picks and Politics. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. All right.